There are stories in Hollywood that never make the headlines, stories that cut deeper than gossip or scandal. Pam Grier's is one of them. She was a legend long before she ever walked onto that sitcom set, the woman who redefined toughness in a man's world. But what happened after her guest appearance on The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air shocked many who knew her. It wasn't about what she did wrong. It was about what Hollywood couldn't handle, her strength, her past, and her truth. The queen who refused to bow. By the early 1990s, Pam Grier had lived through more battles than most people could imagine, and somehow she was still standing. She wasn't just a Hollywood actress. She was a survivor who had carved her place in a world that tried to shut her out from the beginning. Her story began far from the bright lights of Los Angeles, in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, where she was born on May 26, 1949. Her mother, Gwendolyn, was a nurse, calm, disciplined, and endlessly patient. Her father, Clarence, served in the U.S. Air Force, a strict but loving man who moved the family from base to base. That constant movement made Pam feel like a wanderer, never rooted, always adapting. It was a lesson that would shape her entire life, survive anywhere, no matter what. When she was 6, that innocence shattered. During a visit to her aunt's house in Colorado, she was cornered and assaulted by several older boys, one of them her cousin. The trauma left her broken and silent. For years, she told no one. A repairman who walked in during the assault said nothing, fixed the phone, and left, a silence that haunted her for decades. From that moment, the world felt unsafe. She began to stutter, withdrew from people, and learned that the only protection she could ever count on was her own strength. Then, at 18, it happened again. A date rape that reopened every wound she had tried to bury. Those 2 moments defined her relationship with fear, trust, and survival. They became the invisible scars behind every fierce woman she would later play on screen. By the 1960s, Pam had learned to mask her pain behind ambition. She entered the Miss Colorado Universe pageant not out of vanity, but desperation. She needed tuition money for college. She didn't win, but someone noticed her. A Hollywood contact offered her an introduction to an agent, and soon she was packing her bags for Los Angeles with barely $200 in her pocket. She arrived in a city that promised dreams, but delivered chaos. For years, she worked every job imaginable: hostess, switchboard operator, art model, often surviving on 1 meal a day. But every rejection toughened her. And when opportunity finally came, a small role in the big dollhouse, she didn't just act, she owned the screen. She brought something raw, something no one in Hollywood could fake, lived experience. She wasn't pretending to be strong, she already was. And that strength was about to make her a legend, one that Hollywood would never forget, but would also never fully understand. The set everyone wanted to be on. By 1994, The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air wasn't just a TV show. It was a cultural phenomenon. Every week, millions of Americans tuned in to laugh, cry, and connect with the story of a young man from West Philadelphia finding his place among Beverly Hills royalty. It was a rare kind of series, one that balanced sharp humor with real conversations about race, family, and identity. And at its center was Will Smith, the charismatic star who had transitioned from hip-hop fame to television legend almost overnight. Behind the camera, the show was produced by Quincy Jones, one of the most respected figures in entertainment. To be invited onto The Fresh Prince was to be welcomed into an elite circle, one built on charm, energy, and the promise of legacy. When Pam Grier's name appeared on the guest list, everyone paid attention. She was more than a guest star. She was a symbol. By then, she had been Hollywood's first true female action hero. Coffee, Foxy Brown, Sheba Baby, a woman who kicked doors open for every actress who came after. Her appearance on the hit sitcom wasn't just casting, it was recognition. It was as if Fresh Prince itself was saying, "This woman changed the game." Pam was cast as Janice Robertson, a character who embodied everything she represented: confident, magnetic, and intelligent. She played opposite James Avery, the towering actor behind Uncle Phil, and their chemistry was immediate. The audience loved her. On paper, it was supposed to be a light-hearted role, but Pam brought depth to it, a warmth mixed with sharp wit that elevated every line she spoke. But while the audience saw laughter, what was happening behind the scenes told another story. Hollywood in the 1990s still had a silent discomfort with strong black women who refused to shrink themselves. Pam wasn't loud or arrogant. She was assertive, professional, and unfiltered. And that authenticity made some people uneasy. In a workplace dominated by egos, her quiet authority drew attention. Crew members whispered that she commanded the room. A few writers reportedly found her too intense. Those subtle criticisms, the kind that never make headlines, began to spread like smoke. When filming wrapped, Pam left the studio expecting to return for another guest spot. But the phone never rang. Weeks passed, then months. And slowly, rumors began to emerge. Someone said she'd been difficult. Someone else said she'd been banned. None of it was true. Yet in Hollywood, reputation doesn't need proof. It only needs whispers. And soon, the whispers were louder than the truth. The rumor that wouldn't die. When gossip sites and tabloids revived Pam Grier's name years later, they didn't do it to honor her. They did it to stir controversy. Pam Grier banned from The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. The headline was everywhere. It was catchy, dramatic, and cruelly misleading. Some articles claimed she'd gotten into a heated argument with Will Smith. Others said the producers found her too difficult, too serious, or too intense for the show's tone. The truth, as usual, was much simpler and far less scandalous. Pam had filmed her episode, acted professionally, and left. That was it. No fight, no fallout, no ban. But the media wasn't interested in that. They wanted a villain. And in the eyes of Hollywood, a strong black woman who didn't apologize for her confidence made an easy target. It was the same playbook used for decades. Take an outspoken woman, twist her confidence into arrogance, and let rumor do the rest. For someone like Pam, who had built a career on defying stereotypes, the idea that she'd been banned fit perfectly into the narrative Hollywood had written for her. Powerful, unyielding, and therefore uncontrollable. This wasn't new for Pam. She'd seen the same story unfold over and over. In the late 1980s, Disney executives had cut her role almost entirely out of Something Wicked. This way comes after test audiences reportedly weren't comfortable seeing a black woman in a supernatural fantasy. The official reason was marketing. The real reason was bias. Even in the 1990s, when diversity was supposedly improving, Hollywood was still choosing comfort over truth. Then came the Weinstein era. Decades later, when women across the industry finally began speaking out, Pam quietly shared that she had rejected Harvey Weinstein's advances long before his downfall. Turning him down came at a price. She lost roles, connections, and funding opportunities. Hollywood claimed to respect her, but only as long as she stayed silent. So when whispers began that she was never invited back to Fresh Prince, it wasn't hard to see the pattern. The show was warm, family-friendly, and optimistic, and Pam's aura carried too much reality. She was too authentic, too scarred, too powerful. Her presence didn't fit the safe mold of sitcom comfort. She didn't play pretend. She radiated truth. And in an industry built on illusion, truth is often the most dangerous thing you can bring to set. The battles no one saw. What most people didn't realize was that by the time Pam Grier stepped onto the Fresh Prince set, she was already a survivor of unimaginable wars. Not the kind fought with weapons, but the kind that left scars beneath the skin. Long before the cameras rolled, she had been told she wouldn't live to see another birthday. In 1988, at the age of 39, doctors diagnosed her with stage 4 cervical cancer. They gave her 18 months to live, maybe less. The news hit her like a death sentence. She was at the peak of her career, strong, athletic, disciplined. She ran 6 miles every day, avoided alcohol, ate clean. How could this happen to her? Pam described that moment as feeling like, "The ground opened beneath me." But she didn't let the darkness win. Even as her body weakened, her spirit hardened. While undergoing chemotherapy, she continued filming Above the Law with Steven Seagal, never telling the cast or crew about her illness. She wore wigs to hide the hair loss, forced smiles to mask the pain, and worked through exhaustion that would have broken most people. Her mother, a nurse, guided her through treatment and pain management. When doctors prescribed opioids, Pam refused to depend on them. She endured every ache with a kind of spiritual discipline, saying later, "Pain was my teacher." But the emotional pain was worse. The man she was with at the time, someone she believed she would marry, didn't even show up for her first chemotherapy session. Then, he vanished completely. Her sister Krista died soon after from breast cancer, and Krista's son, overwhelmed by grief, took his own life. The tragedies piled up like stones on her chest. Still, Pam kept going. She said, "Cancer teaches you who your real friends are," and for her, that lesson was brutal. Out of that agony, something powerful began to form. She started turning her pain into purpose, combining chemotherapy with yoga, meditation, and Chinese herbal medicine. Slowly, her body began to fight back. By 1990, she was in remission. So when Pam Grier arrived to play Janice Robertson on The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, she wasn't just another guest star. She was a woman who had walked through fire and lived to tell about it. Her truth was too raw, her survival too visible. And maybe that's what unsettled people the most. Because in a town full of actors, Pam Grier was something far rarer, completely, fearlessly real. Hollywood's silent punishment. After The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, Pam Grier didn't disappear. She evolved. She quietly began choosing roles that reflected who she truly was, a woman of depth, wisdom, and courage. In Law and Order, SVU, she played a prosecutor who fought for justice with the same ferocity that had defined her early career. The performance was powerful, not because it was loud or flashy, but because it was grounded in truth. Pam knew injustice. She had lived through it. Then came The L Word, Showtime's groundbreaking drama that aired from 2004 to 2009. Pam played Kit Porter, a musician, a recovering alcoholic, a sister trying to hold her world together. It was a raw, deeply human role that mirrored her own struggles with loss and healing. For 6 seasons, she gave audiences a version of herself that felt painfully real. Kit's heartbreak, her strength, her quiet moments of defeat, they were all reflections of Pam's life. The irony was undeniable. The same Hollywood that once said she was too intense, too serious, and too much now built an entire generation of stories around women exactly like her. But behind the applause, something darker lingered. In interviews, Pam admitted that even with all her success, the shadow of bias never disappeared. She was still pigeonholed, still measured by her past rather than her talent. When Jackie Brown premiered in 1997, Quentin Tarantino had written the role specifically for her, a gift to the woman who had inspired him. He rewrote Elmore Leonard's Rum Punch to center on a black woman instead of a white one. Pam delivered one of the most commanding performances of her career, sharp, emotional, unforgettable. The film grossed $74 million worldwide and earned her a Golden Globe nomination. Critics hailed it as her grand comeback, her vindication. And yet, when Oscar season arrived, Pam was nowhere to be found on the nomination list. The Academy that had rewarded John Travolta for Pulp Fiction, another Tarantino-led comeback, ignored her completely. It was one of the most glaring oversights of the decade. Nearly 20 years later, IndieWire would name her one of the greatest actors never to receive an Oscar nomination. a compliment that felt more like a confession of guilt. Hollywood had always loved Pam's image, the icon, the rebel, the legend, but never her truth. That imbalance defined her entire journey. Just like the Fresh Prince rumor, she wasn't banned. She was forgotten, quietly erased by an industry still terrified of women who couldn't be controlled. Redemption and legacy. Decades later, Pam Grier's story has come full circle. She's not bitter, she's grateful. She often says that surviving what she did made her fearless. Her life became a roadmap for resilience, from the pain of her childhood to her rise in the 1970s, to her miraculous recovery from cancer, to her triumphant comeback in Jackie Brown. In 2010, she released her memoir, Foxy, My Life in 3 Acts, sharing everything she had kept hidden, the assaults, the illness, the heartbreak. It shocked Hollywood, but also earned her a new kind of respect. No one could question her strength anymore. In recent years, she's appeared in shows like Bless This Mess and films like Palms, proving that age could never dim her fire. She's become an advocate for cancer awareness and women's empowerment, using her voice to help others survive what she once did. And as for the Fresh Prince? The truth is simple. She filmed her scenes. She did her job. She wasn't banned. But the rumor endures because it fits Hollywood's favorite story, that a powerful woman must have done something wrong. Pam Grier's life proves the opposite. She didn't break the rules, she broke the mold. Pam Grier's strength wasn't just on screen, it was in every battle she fought when no one was watching. Do you think Hollywood ever truly gave her the recognition she deserved? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more untold stories of the legends who changed Hollywood forever.